While I served in Afghanistan, dodging Taliban fire, Karen Whitmore waged a different kind of war back home. She seized my family's 200-acre ranch and had the audacity to text me a photo of a bulldozer desecrating my grandmother's grave. I returned not to the open pastures where my cattle grazed, but to a landscape of sprawling Karen stood there, clipboard in hand, a smirk playing on her lips. "Welcome home, soldier," she purred. "We've made some improvements to your little property while you were off playing war." She had just made a monumental, life-altering mistake. My family's ranch was established on a federal military land grant from 1943. Karen hadn't merely stolen property. She had committed a federal crime against a military family, an act tantamount to treason. She thought she was preying on a deployed soldier, isolated and helpless. Instead, she had just declared war on the entire United States Army. "My name is Sergeant First Class Rebecca Torres. 3 months ago I believed my greatest adversary was the Taliban. I was wrong. My true enemy was a 52-year-old real estate attorney with the ethics of a creditor. The Broken Arrow Ranch, 200 acres of Texas hill country, has been Torres land since 1892. My great-grandfather, Manuel, earned it with blood spilled in the Pacific Theater, building our legacy with calloused hands and a governance promise. Before she passed in 2018, my grandmother, Aline, made me swear on her deathbed, Mija, never let strangers take what is ours. 3 weeks later, I deployed to Afghanistan, leaving the ranch in the care of Walt Kowalski, my 89-year-old neighbor. Walt was Korean War solid, the kind of man who would sever his own hand before breaking a promise. He'd watched over our cattle since before my birth. "Don't you worry, Becca," he'd said, his grip still firm. "This place will be exactly as you left it." That's when Karen Whitmore arrived in Wildflower Estates, the luxury subdivision bordering my land. She was the embodiment of every HOA horror story. A freshly divorced lawyer with a white Range Rover and a deep-seated sense of entitlement. Within her first week, she filed county complaints about agricultural odors. Week 2 brought noise violations against roosters that had greeted the dawn on that land for decades. By the 3rd month, she was hosting concerned neighbor meetings in her vanilla-scented living room. "That ranch is destroying our property values," she'd proclaim. "Something must be done about the Torres situation." The Torres situation. As if my family's century-old legacy was a problem to be solved. While I was evading mortar in Kandahar, Karen was mining county records. She unearthed a dormant 1970s covenant requiring residential conformity, legal language so vague it could be twisted to her purposes. It's a sobering lesson. Restrictive covenants can be weaponized decades after their creation. She immediately incorporated the Wildflower Estates Community Association, appointed herself president, and initiated foreclosure proceedings against my property for non-conforming agricultural use. Her lawyer dispatched certified notices to my ranch address, where the only residents were cattle. Poor Walt, his eyesight failing at 89, found the stacks of letters but couldn't decipher the fine print, dismissing them as Medicare scams. Meanwhile, I was in a valley so remote that cell service was a fantasy. 6 months later, a judge issued a default judgment against me, $47,000 in community improvement fees, plus Karen's legal costs. The ranch was to be auctioned. The Service Members Civil Relief Act should have protected me from such proceedings. But a law is only a shield if you know it exists to raise it. Karen's LLC acquired my $2.3 million ranch for a winning bid of $50,000 by the time my boots touched American soil. She had already broken ground on Wildflower Estates. Phase 2. I returned home not to the scent of Texas bluebonnets but to the acrid smell of diesel exhaust. I breached the door of that construction trailer with the same intensity I'd used to clear compounds in Kandahar. My combat boots still on. Karen feigned surprise. "Oh, Rebecca, you're back early," she purred, as if I were interrupting her book club. "I was just finalizing the landscape plans for your old property." My old property. The audacity was staggering. The documents she handed me detailed her conquest. Architectural drawings for executive living, my family cemetery designated as community garden space, and my great-grandfather's barn, built with his own hands after surviving Guadalcanal, slated for demolition. "Everything's perfectly legal, sweetie," she said, her smile chilling. "Your neighbor Walt received all the notices. We even have his signature on the acceptance forms." Walt's signature. My blood ran cold. At the county courthouse, Dolores Martinez, the clerk, had been waiting for me. "Honey, this whole thing stinks worse than roadkill in August," she said, spreading the files. "Karen filed the HOA incorporation papers exactly 1 week after your deployment orders were published. She was hunting me." Then Dolores found the document. "Here it is. Walt Kowalski's signature on HOA membership acceptance." She squinted. "Rebecca," she said, her voice dropping, "Walt has been hospitalized with pneumonia for 4 months. I visit him every Sunday." Karen hadn't just committed fraud. She'd forged the signature of an 89-year-old Korean War veteran. Dolores uncovered more. 3 other military families targeted with the same pattern: elderly caretakers, forged signatures, foreclosures during deployment. This was a systematic criminal enterprise. Attorney Sarah Chen at the Veterans Justice Project didn't hesitate. This is no longer civil fraud, she declared. This is federal racketeering, RICO violations, prison time. That evening, a text arrived from an unknown number. Welcome home, soldier. Hope you're enjoying the improvements. By the way, Walt sends his regards from his hospital stay. K attached was the photo. A bulldozer parked directly on my grandmother's grave. The second photo showed Walt's forged signature with a message. Amazing how cooperative elderly neighbors become with the right motivation. She was taunting me, confessing to a string of federal offenses via text message, an act of arrogance so profound it would become her undoing. I forwarded everything to Sarah Chen. Her reply was instant. Rebecca, she just confessed to federal crimes in writing. This isn't civil court anymore. This is federal prison. Within an hour, Sarah had contacted the FBI's white-collar crime division. Karen thought she was untouchable, preying on soldiers and the elderly. She had just picked a fight with the entire federal government. The next morning, I watched in horror as Karen's crew felled the century-old oak tree my great-grandfather planted the day he returned from war. "Morning, neighbor," she called out. "We're planting lovely Bradford pears, much more appropriate for our community standards." But while she was destroying my past, we were securing her future. My case became the centerpiece of a multi-state investigation. We met at Sarah Chen's officer conference room, thick with coffee and controlled rage. 7 confirmed cases, $12.3 million in stolen military property. Her ex-husband, Bradley, provides the legal framework, Sarah explained. They're business partners in this systematic exploitation. Karen then escalated to psychological warfare, distributing anonymous letters claiming I was unstable due to combat PTSD. My own community began to shun me. Her masterstroke was a false police report. I returned home to find my trailer surrounded by police cars. Rebecca, said Deputy Collins, a high school friend. "We received reports you've been making threats." Karen had orchestrated it perfectly, painting herself as the concerned neighbor trying to help a troubled veteran. But she made a critical error in her performance for the crowd. She mentioned details about the federal investigation that were not public tales only someone directly involved would know. Deputy Collins caught it. After the police left, he lingered. "Rebecca, off the record, this whole thing stinks," he said, handing me a card. "Federal Agent Martinez left this for you. Said to call immediately. Something about Karen making another tactical error tonight." Karen thought she'd destroyed my credibility. Instead, she had just handed federal prosecutors evidence of obstruction of justice. The war was far from over. It was about to become a matter of national security.